$8.
$8, that's what I figured, because I know it just went up.
She's from here originally, I don't know.
Okay.
First,
Huh.
tomorrow, us three.
That's right.
All right, Mr. Mayor, whenever you're ready.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. John.
Thanks everybody for coming out. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Tim, anything?
I have a couple of things I'll talk about during my report, but I know there was one addition under your report, was the, I think you were gonna do this update. And then I have one other request under your report, which is to, designate a financial subcommittee for, review of, insurance and audit RFPs. Those are due this year, so it sounds like typically in the past, they've assigned two. The mayor has asked two council members to be involved in that process, so.
Okay. And the first one will be the mental health initiative.
That's right.
Okay. Dan, anything? Dwight?
Nope. No.
Yes.
Okay.
We need to add under the attorney's report, closed portion of the attorney's report, discussion about the library.
Okay. And that would be because of potential litigation.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dwayne. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Any questions for the administrator on the consent agenda? Okay, I'd just like to point out the evaluation for Nancy at the library. She took over for Art and,
No.
This is Nancy Hackman.
Nancy Hackman, I'm sorry.
Not that.
She is doing a fine
Yeah,
job.
Nancy is doing a fine job at the library.
Nancy did the book bug this
Yep.
summer, so
Yep.
she's been a very, very vital part of
Yep.
the library.
There, I can't see. Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Mel. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Visitors to the council. And we have a budget and levy public input, so we'll open up public input for anyone that has any comments on the preliminary budget. Hearing none, we'll close the public input. Mayor's report. Why don't you do the designate the financial committee? We'll
Sure. So, earlier this week, Nancy and I, sat down and talked about the, RFPs for our audits and also for the insurance. We know there was a few hiccups last year, especially with the insurance aspect, so we actually have written up an actual RFP, and I think you might have even received one, Chris. I don't know if you've gotten it yet, if you got it electronically. Well, in the past, it sounds that, you know, the mayor has designated two council members to help with that review, Nancy?
We had a finance committee that
Sure.
reviewed those things.
So I think we're looking for an ad hoc committee, maybe just to be created for this process.
Okay. Is anybody interested in doing that?
I would do it.
Dan, anybody else?
I don't expect it to be a large time commitment,
Okay.
but,
Anyone else interested? I will do it.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, quick update on the mental health initiative. So, just to recap what we're doing, so we've got several organizations that have volunteered or have brought their services forward. So we have the prepaid counseling hours at Fernbrook, for anybody to call the main number there, and they can get a free hour of counseling, no questions asked on the city. We're trying to figure out a way to get that out there, because we're trying to get their classes, and that's what I gave you too, was their 5, education series they're gonna put together for Casson residents that are free to anybody in the city to attend via Zoom. So right now, if anybody calls Fernbrook from Casson, they are letting them know that they can exercise that free hour.
Okay, so because that's a question that did come up, so I really appreciate you putting that. So, for when, like, for example, we've got a newsletter, so really what we need to be, you know, I think we don't intend for city staff to be the middleman on this.
Nope.
If possible, because.
Call
okay,
this number.
Perfect, okay, pass it down, we'll get it.
That's basically the
We can store that
Fernbrook
in the
main number,
newsletter.
if they've all had their training to where if they call from the city of Casson, they'll quiz them on where they're from, you know, their address to make sure they're from the city of Casson, and they'll start the process, and they'll let us know how that's going. I wish we could have all this together to put out there at once, but the logistics of trying to get some of these classes scheduled right now is kind of a nightmare. That's one of the things, I am limited on my knowledge. I can do Zoom for meetings and those types of things, but they're asking us if the city has a Zoom account that could be utilized, because then they can, if the city had an account that was the commercial account, you can get a lot more people on that call versus the free version, which limits you to a certain number of people.
I know we have ability to utilize,
And then 40 minutes too, so.
yeah, I know we have ability to utilize a GoToMeeting account with,
Okay.
Our utility partner has something we could use there, but we could also subscribe if the council wanted to one of the services, whether it's Zoom or one of the other ones, if you'd like to do that, that certainly is a possibility. I know there'll be some cost. Linda, you've had some experience with that, haven't you? You took a look at it.
I did not get any costs,
Okay.
The
because
costs
we were
aren't that
gonna
great.
use the, CMMPA.
Yeah.
Right,
We
but
were
you didn't
gonna
actually,
pay off
you
them,
didn't,
but
you
we didn't
didn't.
need to do the meeting that way.
Okay.
I think it's less than $100.
You can check with Southeast Minnesota League, Brenda.
Mhm.
We have,
You have an account too? Well, so yeah, I think we certainly can, either we will end up paying for it, or we can maybe utilize one of our other partners if they wanna do some larger scale meetings. I don't think that'll be an issue.
So could I pass this on to you then, Tim? If you can search that with Southeast Minnesota League,
Mhm.
or if we just subscribe to it. This is the gal that is at Fernbrook who's gonna be doing those
Okay.
5 classes that you
Sure.
talked about. So if you coordinate with her on how we get that link out, then we can work on getting it out there by in town
Okay.
to be able to do it. But this is the conversation I had with her today, and she was asking about a city Zoom account.
Oh, perfect. Well, yeah, we'll definitely coordinate there.
and I ain't sure which account she has, but.
Well, and like I said, I know that I asked about, because earlier this year, we had talked about doing like remote council meetings. And so I checked into it at that time, and we could certainly use the, Compass also has that GoToMeetings platform, which they utilize, so. One of the other questions I had about, you talking about getting it out, Mr. Mayor, would be, are we anticipating doing like a media push on this? Are we looking at expenditure for that, or what are your thoughts?
There might be a small expense on that if we wanted to go to the DCI said they will do a free insert in their
Okay.
shopper, that they would target to every Casson resident that gets, and everybody gets the shopper.
Sure.
So they would do that for free, we would just have to print up the insert to
Okay.
give to them.
Okay.
So when we get kinda all the information together, and then on the city website, I talked to you earlier in the week, we should have something about the mental health initiative where people could just be directed there, and then they would have that same flyer. Then we get it on the social media.
Yeah, we're ready to go with that, so we're gonna create a separate page with a front page link and.
Okay,
should
I got
make it
some other
real easy
numbers
them,
for you
so.
for NAMI's emergency number, and then there's some texting numbers too, because a lot of kids don't like to call and talk to
Mhm.
people, but they'll text.
Right.
So there's some texting hotlines in that too that we can utilize.
Okay.
And then the other two, I'm just waiting on how we can get it scheduled. So this one here with, so the 5 classes, what is mental health, really understanding mental health, daily struggles with mental disorders, stress and coping 101, how to support our youth, and then, licking is the same as hand washing, right, parenting in 2020. And that's kind of a thing where it connects everybody on the same call, where they can share their success stories or their failures as parents and kinda help each other out. So I think one of the big things is how do we talk to our kids about it? And, Monday night, we do Big Brothers Big Sisters, and our little brother called us after school, and he was bored. He said, can I just come hang out at your house? So he came over and hung out, and I was making sausage and stuff and that, and he was playing dominoes with Candy, and then he just out of the blue just said, so has anybody in your family ever committed suicide? So, I mean, 5th grade, you know, so kids are talking about it, they're talking about it in school, it's Suicide Awareness Month, so no matter what age they are, and it kinda, Candy and I kinda looked there like, okay, you know, so it was just kind of out of the blue a little bit, but, you know, kids are talking about it, and this is another way that we can get parents engaged, and it goes all the way down, some of them are 4 children.
If they offer anything else that's at the 10+ level, that would be something that I think would be beneficial, because the middle school kids it is a discussion topic, and they need help.
Okay, all right, so that's where we're at on that, and we'll keep going, and any other ideas, let me know as far as we'll get it out, so. Okay, thanks, everybody. Public forum, I have one, Tim Amaro, name and address.
19 North Manderville Avenue. Just wanted to thank Casson Fire and Police for their yeoman's work today, this morning. Been in first responder for 10 years and in the crash business since '79, so that's tough stuff, and as they always do, they performed 120%, and just give a shout out to them for all they do, so.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks, chief. Those situations are tough and we don't like them, but, guys did a good job. Public hearing, first public hearing is regarding the liquor license for El Patron, the restaurant bar that's, bought the Daniels Restaurant, they're 504 South Manorville Avenue. So we will open the public hearing on the liquor license for El Patron. Does anybody present have anything that they wanted to add or share or say?
Well, we come in part of Patron.
Okay.
Well, go ahead if you'd like to say something, please
Yeah.
step up, just give us your name and your address, and then we'll have that for the record.
Alrighty, my name is Adolfo Angel. I'm son of Eduardo Angel, who is the main owner of El Patron in Austin and Winona. And we'd like to say thank you for an opportunity here in Casson, and we want to feel welcomed in this town also.
Sure.
Perfect. Anybody have any questions or public have any comments regarding the liquor license?
I had a question,
Yep.
maybe just tangentially related to the liquor license, but of the business itself, I know that the EDA has a facade grant program, and they were wondering if you were interested, if you were planning on putting additional signage up. That's something you would qualify for. I know Nicholas, our EDA representative, had tried to contact some people over there, and that was something that if you're looking at putting some signage up, we'd love to help you with that, financially. So, please let us know if we can help with that part of the project, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be something
Okay.
that,
You have a good contact number for you,
yeah, 712
712
269
269
2536.
2536. All right, well, I'll have Nicholas give you a call and see if we can get you lined up with something, okay?
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Thanks for, coming in and taking over the restaurant. We look forward to seeing you on the 1st of October.
Yep.
All right.
Really?
Alright.
Welcome to the community.
Yay.
We'll be
Yep,
there to
thank
try it
you.
out.
Definitely.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing.
Staff did not have any objections to this license, Mr. Mayor, so
Okay.
we recommend approval.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dwayne. We have a motion to approve the liquor license for El Patron. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and thanks for coming too, and welcome to the community. Appreciate it.
Alright, thank you very much.
National, I can't read this. Natural gas ordinance. We have a public hearing on that as well. Let me pull it up. So we'll open the public hearing for anyone that has comment on.
I can share.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, my computer took a crash at about 5:30, so I'm reading it on this. So does anybody in the public have anything they want to add or share or comment on the new ordinance, the natural gas franchise fee on natural gas companies operating in the city of Casson, similar to what we do with our utility with KM Telecom and Charter? They all pay a franchise fee for being here. Helps pay for some of the infrastructure. So this is an addition. This will be an additional fee on everybody's gas bill. $2.50 a month per meter, and then depending on the service, it's two cents per therm on other classes and an eighth of a cent per therm on commercial. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from council? So we talked about for last month. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thanks, Dwayne. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
We're also requesting a motion for summary publication if possible.
Yes, sir. So moved. I'll make the motion to approve the summary publication.
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, committee reports. Planning Commission, the first one is Bigelow Voigt 8th final plat request for council action. That one. Anything?
You should have your action sheets in there, and I think that staff did a good job, Brad did a good job of writing that up. I know the Planning Commission took a look at these, in fact, both of them, and they've been discussed quite a bit, and I don't know if Dwayne, I know you were at the meeting, do you have any
Yep.
additional comments?
No additional comments. There was, everything was in alignment based, was slight change from the preliminary plat, but everything was in good order. I I think there was just a slight modification to the cul-de-sac alignments, on the private streets, but other than that, there wasn't much of a change at all. Other than, let's see, there was also an expansion of the, pond, the retention pond. There was a retention, there's gonna be a bike trail that separates two retention ponds. But all in all, it was all in alignment with previous discussions and the discussions from the preliminary plat, so the planning commission recommended approval.
Okay, any questions for planning commission on that? We have Mr. Bigwell here tonight too, so any questions for Tony? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks, Lonnie, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Second one is Meadowbrook second preliminary and final plat.
So this is a project that, had come up a couple of years ago, and there was some, land use issues there, some retainage pond issues and things like that, but it had been vetted out. It came up again quickly here. It sounds like there was, some ability to get access to do that pond, the large pond. So, this was brought forward, and you've got the right up there as well, but, you know, when we did our review, it was to expedite it, but I think we found that was pretty, you know, in line with what we were expecting, and the only issue there was we did identify a trail section that had been intended to run on the east side of the street coming from the north, but I think we're gonna integrate that into the sidewalk system possibly and make sure, make sure that's connected into everything on 16th Street.
Okay. You wanna add from?
No, this is essentially Dan's backyard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, far enough away.
And, behind the Sharon property. I think it was also, it hadn't been filed previously, so it came back again, so we can get it filed, so.
Okay, any questions?
Where were you looking at the sidewalks?
So on the east side of the road coming down there, 14th
Oh,
Avenue
okay.
Northeast, that, you know, originally a corridor of trails was in the comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
So, you know, we have to define that. Brandon, do you know, did we define, were we just gonna make that into a trail on that side then?
Yeah, on the east side of
I think
14th
we'll make that
Avenue,
by
some
2
staff
minutes instead of a
recommendation, yeah.
sidewalk, so. That should be able to integrate into the field a little bit better than.
Yeah, correct. So within the comp plan that kinda happened after this was initially proposed in 2016, I think it was, or 2017, we did the comprehensive planning process that showed a trail corridor along Maston Creek that ultimately would, kinda run along Maston Creek. So when we ultimately went back to that comp plan and said, well, how do we incorporate that into the subdivision now that it's in front of us again? We ultimately thought that that trail along Maston Creek, since that's surround property that's unplatted to the north and the grades, it's really steep in there, that running it at least along 14th Avenue from our trail on the north side of 16th Street to the south to the subdivision to get to that point really worked out well for our trail system. Then at that point, we'll look at the alignment when the property to the south is being developed at that time. So we'll have different options. So we're kinda keeping our options open on the alignment to the south, but I think it's pretty critical to get this section in this plat, and I believe the developer's accepting of that, condition, so.
Perfect. Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. And thanks, planning commission for putting the time out of these, and I have to tell you, I really love the council action sheets that spell it all
Oh,
out
yeah.
with the attachments, that's perfect, so. And thanks to you folks there, Tony, and, continuing to develop in the city, and, like you said, when you sold your own, we need more lots and homes in town.
Yep.
People are buying them, so.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for putting the time into that. Okay, third one, conditional use permit for standard storage. This is to store
Outside storage. Mr. Stannard has the, modules, up here by the funeral home, and he had intended on having an outside storage so he could rent out space for storage of boats and campers. There was a considerable discussion as to what was dust-free, gravel, or versus bituminous. Bituminous was going to be cost prohibitive, and so after much discussion, the planning and zoning had determined that the rock of 1.25 inch, 1.5 sized, a large limestone rock, put down as a base would be dust-free enough to qualify, to meet the conditional use permit. And Mr. Standard was in agreement with that, and we did discuss security. He's not intending on putting any fence, so he's assuming, liability with that, and there was gonna be some, things put into an agreement with him regarding, the security issues on that, so. The planning commission recommended, approval of the conditional use permit with understanding that the rock fits the dust-free.
Okay. Any questions, planning and zoning on that?
Just could I make a point of order?
Yep.
I believe in your resolution it talks about external storage shall be allowed with proper screening, parking plan, surfacing, so I just wanna make sure that the resolution is clear on if there's screening or not involved in that.
Yeah, 'cause, I know the, request for council action is external storage to be allowed with proper screening, a parking plan, and proper surfacing of parking. Was the proper surfacing be the inch to inch and a half?
Yep.
That's what that references?
Yeah,
I think that's clear in the resolution on the 1.5 inch, but what was just described, I don't think is what the resolution says, so I just want the council to, I guess, review that.
I don't recall the discussion regarding screening came up at the last meeting. It had been at the previous meeting,
Yeah.
Monty.
It looks like on point number 3 there, point number 4 kind of defines what you consider to be proper screening, but it's, and I wasn't obviously at the planning and zoning meeting, but, maybe Linda can verify that, but it looks like to me, because you didn't require a fence or any kind of other screening at this time, that maybe on point 3 in the resolution, we should strip out, screening as a point. You know, you do define in point 4 that it should be monitored, and security fence shall be installed, so that does cover the issue if it occurs. It sounds like you guys did discuss it.
Yeah.
But so, I would say, my recommendation would be just to strike out that, wording of proper screening in point 3 of the resolution.
Would you add that into, to number 4, saying if they do put the fence up, that they'd have to have the proper screening then?
Well, I mean, I would consider the security fence to be a proper screening, you know. When I consider screening, it's either some kind of foliage screening, so trees of some kind that would screen the property, or more likely a fence.
Okay.
So, I mean, we certainly could, you know, 4 could read, the site shall be monitored and proper screening such as a security fence should be installed if they experience more than one nuisance violation. We could certainly amend that language, and I would say maybe that would mean that we could strip it out as point number 3. If that makes sense, then we could just make that as an, I could just say that maybe it was a miswrite up, and we don't even have to worry about doing 2 resolutions then.
Okay.
The problem I see with proper screening, we could ask the chief too, but if they do have vegetation or proper screening, it just invites people to do things they shouldn't be doing.
Sure.
I mean, it's not near any private residences or
No.
anything?
No.
Okay.
I know when we originally discussed it with Mr. Standard back in August, or was it in July maybe?
July.
You know, the question, the issue came up mostly because of, you know, future growth in that area.
Right.
So if something were to develop on that southeast side of town, you know, just having stuff exposed is not gonna work. So I think that's why the planning commission said, you know, going forward, you should know that we may require you to, you know, have this fencing, because obviously if there's some other business that goes in there, you're not gonna want kids running around up there once the population starts to grow down there, so.
Right.
So, kinda on your idea of the screening, Ronnie, if it was a chain link fence.
Then I wouldn't have a problem. You can see through it.
Yeah, see,
You can see through it.
so
But
maybe
if
we
I
have
was
to
gonna park
clarify.
something, I could just see somebody doing something
Yep.
under the cover of screening.
Yes, but if it was a chain link fence, it still
Then I have
secures
no
the
issue.
area, plus
Yes.
it allows,
Yes.
Okay.
so maybe.
Well, so do you want to just eliminate that whole word of proper screening and just leave it as a security fence?
Yeah.
Is it what you wanna do?
That'd
That's
be
fair with
fine
me,
with
like
me.
I said, I didn't write
Well,
this
that's
up,
why
so I
I
don't
was
know.
just
but-
verifying, so.
But yeah, no, I think that makes sense, if that's really what we want, let's put it in there, and say what we want, you know?
Yeah,
So we'll delete screening from point 3.
3, and leave security fence
And
in
just
point
leave
4.
So basically just amend it to
Yeah, just eliminate
Proper
those
screening.
2 words,
Okay.
you know, allowed with, so point 3 would read, external storage shall be allowed with a parking plan and proper surfacing of parking area. Point 4 would read as it does with a security fence,
Sure.
to be installed.
Would you wanna leave in there that the screening could be required in the future
Yeah,
if
that was-
there's
Yeah.
development?
I was
so
just
that
gonna
you
ask
can
Sure.
have
'Cause you
something
did have-
that,
Mhm.
You
so
can
that
come back
residences
to-
don't have to stare at
Yep.
storage of boats.
What do you wanna have, maybe we do a .5,
Yep.
say at a future time, if, I don't know how you wanna word
If
that.
development-
If development to
If
the.
a development occurs,
If the yeah.
screening can be
adjacent-
required as part of our conditional use permit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, does that, you catch
If
that, Linda?
adjacent property is developed or
Future
something.
time if development occurs.
Upon adjacent property.
There you go.
Just, yeah, covering all bases, so
Well,
2 years down the
hopefully-
road or.
Hopefully, if we
You
get
wanna
enough
say
people
proper
moving
screening
in,
will be
he'd build more
required,
buildings,
or-
and he wouldn't have outside storage.
Yeah, and maybe he'll eliminate the
Right.
issue too, although I would think he would wanna have some screening anyways, when he gets those all built too, if he gets other neighbors. But,
But then this leaves it open for him and us.
Right.
Okay, so we're removing proper screening from number 3.
Mhm.
Number 4 stays as it is.
Yep.
And then we're adding number 5, at future time, if development occurs upon adjacent properties, then proper screening will be required.
that sounds good.
Good legally?
Yep.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? Thanks, Brandon, for pointing that out. Just looking for future problems every minute of the way. Anything else anybody's got?
I'm good now.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve as changed.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Wayne. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And I just have one question. So we just approved a conditional use permit with conditions, hence the name. So is this going to a queue somewhere that we had talked about before, where someone's gonna be assigned to follow up on that periodically and then let planning and zoning know that, hey, these are under review this month? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. On to old business, council discussion on 21 budget and levy.
This is the fun part of the meeting here.
Yeah.
Nancy, if you have anything you wanna bring up?
No,
or
it's
anything?
just that I think council has vetted, a lot of where they're at right now and how they'd like to proceed. It is at the percentage in dollars, so noted. So if there's anything else you'd recommend for tonight, we can put that in the resolution. You will need to decide tonight. This meeting is 2 weeks later than it normally is, but it does need to be reported as to what the preliminary levy is. So if there's any additional discussion that you have as a council, at this point to, approve the budget as well as the preliminary levy with any modifications that you suggest tonight.
We did receive notice, Linda did, about our healthcare renewal, so we're expecting to see a percentage number on that probably next week. So at that time, we can integrate those numbers in, and that'll affect the bottom line, but, that'll give us some flexibility either, well, hopefully it won't go over, but we're expecting with the number we have, it should be pretty good.
From my point, considering the volume of discussion that's taken place at the staff level and at the council level, I'm okay to adopt it as it is right now without any changes, knowing that we have the opportunity to change at the final.
I would concur with that. There's nothing big that I saw nothing's come up since the last meeting that we talked about to put in there, so. Dan, any comments?
No.
Lonnie?
I just have one comment. Where's the wall in here?
It's under council budget. Miscellaneous things like that go under council budget, or they have in the past.
I still have an issue with that being in the budget. I just don't feel if we could poll all the voting taxpayers in this town, that wall would fail. I think if we fund that wall, it will lead to other funding. I feel if whatever they can raise, if they can raise 3,000 and we match it, and they take whatever part they can afford to take and put it in that veterans memorial that's proposed, I have no issue with it. But I don't like the idea of the city. If you could talk to the guys that built this wall, they didn't intend it to last forever. That wall was built just to give jobs to people. That's what it was designed for. I don't like the city backing or funding this thing.
'Cause it does equal a 2% increase in the levy.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
And we
a lot
could
of-
use that 60,000 for a lot of other things.
Yes.
And with the COVID thing, we don't even know how much we're getting from the state, do we?
Right, no, well, we have a projection, I mean, they've given us some numbers, but the state cannot unallot. My packet last time I talked about the unallotment process.
Right.
I mean, and I wasn't here, obviously, when you guys talked about it a little bit last time. I'm a little afraid it's disingenuous. I mean, I guess the question should be, you know, eventually we need to say, are we gonna do it or not?
Right.
Because if you're putting the funding in now, yes, we can strip it out later, but I don't want people to feel like we promised something to
Yes,
them by putting it in.
exactly.
If in the long run, we really don't wanna do it, then that's the fairness of it. I mean, I don't want somebody to say, well, you could do it,
Yes.
you know, and
You
then pull away.
budgeted for it.
I mean,
Why
here's
aren't
the
you
thing.
doing it?
We can reduce this if we decided to do it. I don't expect, my own opinion, this is just my opinion, would be that I would not expect the taxpayers to pay for this through the levy. Which means that we would be looking at alternative funding sources, and we have ability to do that. If we decided to use fund balance, or if we decided to use some of our other funds from other, revenue streams that we have, we have the ability to do that. I mean, I definitely see why we wanted to put it in there, because we're saying, here's the worst case scenario. And it does give us some flexibility on if healthcare comes in a little higher or whatever, but I just don't want people to feel like we're promising something to them by putting it in the budget and then saying, we're gonna take it all away.
Exactly.
You know, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer not to use levy dollars to do it. I think we have liquor store funds that fits well with what our liquor store.
If we were
properties
choosing
are known for.
to actually do it, that would
Right.
make sense, yes.
But we need a little bit of wiggle room here. If health insurance comes in astronomically high,
Right.
something's gotta come out.
Well, can we leave the 65,000 in there, just not designate it
For the wall.
for the wall? Just say it's $65,000
Backup?
back up, and then if we don't need it by December, we can always take that back out.
Yep.
Yes, I agree
I'm
with
okay
that.
with that.
I'd be good
I'm
with
okay
that.
with that.
Yeah, why don't we do that, if that's where the council wants to go? We'll
Then
leave
we
that
can
as
still stay at our 8%.
We'll leave that as undesignated, Nancy, is that
Yeah, we'll
okay?
leave it as undesignated, and, otherwise, the numbers don't change, but we'll definitely.
Right.
leave it
Okay.
there.
Yeah, it'll be
And
a
if anyone
placeholder
asks,
for-
Yep.
the wall is not in there.
Right.
That's the response,
I'm okay with that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not in for levy dollars.
Right, cause it's hard to justify a 2% increase to everybody
Yep.
Yep.
for that.
No, I agree 100%.
You could use it for personal safety,
Yep.
whatever. Okay.
Got it. Anything else?
Other than that, no, it's definitely good.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the preliminary 2021 budget.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Mel. Do I have a second?
Go ahead.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution adopting the preliminary 2020 levy collectible of 2021, which is $3,643,245.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, and thanks for putting this together, Nancy, appreciate it. All right, ordinance 878. Do we need to have a public hearing on this?
No.
No, okay. Oh, okay. So this is an ordinance on salaries for the mayor and council members, which leaves the salaries the same. There's no increase in the salaries for either positions. It does increase for meetings that last more than 4 hours, an extra compensation per hour for those meetings. We've talked about this earlier in the summer. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen where you have a member who has to take a day off of their normal job all day, and then when you're getting the, $35 for the meeting, and you're there for 9, 10, 12 hours, that doesn't, that's not really, I don't think that's fair to the official on that, so I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Does it, before we go, does that include if you're doing an evening meeting?
Any
Any
meeting
meeting?
lasting over 4 hours.
Okay. And then, how do you tally, I mean, you're just gonna,
Well, I
try to,
If
I
you
mean,
had
you
a
go.
meeting lasting over 4 hours, you would note that on your meetings list.
Right. I mean, we're anticipating
And we
that
can
there-
verify any of those anyway.
Yeah, we're
Oh, okay.
anticipating that there won't be a lot of meetings of
No.
that nature. It's
Most of them are
certainly-
gonna be legal,
Right.
like when we had some other lawsuit stuff where we had members that had to go for
Union negotiations
union
possible,
negotiations,
or some kind of.
those
legal
are the
thing.
only
Hopefully we
ones.
can
Yeah.
mitigate
Hiring.
those.
And hiring, yeah.
Hiring's been the other
Yeah.
thing.
But
And it's a
going to
reason to keep-
conferences and stuff, that doesn't count.
No.
That's not a.
And it's a reason to keep planning and zoning under 4 hours. If it's a 3.5, we call it.
The lights shut off at 3 minutes.
It's been a
So you go
long
4 hours
time
and
since
5
we've had
minutes?
a 4-hour meeting.
Nope. Nope. No, I mean, I only see, envision this with possibly hiring committee when you're spending all day.
Yep.
And
You negotiations and then possibly the legal stuff that comes up from time to time. Other than that, our normal meetings and going to conferences or the League of Minnesota Cities meetings, no, those aren't, that's not the same thing.
No, you might, just for future, you might wanna have to word that in there for future councils down the road. Or you're gonna have them say, well, it says anything over 4 hours, any meeting.
You wanna just add excluding conferences?
Yes.
Excluding
Yeah,
conferences.
excluding
Seems like a good add.
Well,
That's
yeah.
a good point.
Because, you know, like, that other board I'm on starts at 2 in the afternoon and goes to 9 and 10 o'clock at night.
Sure, yeah, you have more needs of that one. Yep,
You know, that's, so you would wanna exclude that,
right.
is what I see, so.
Okay, no, that's. a
We're
good
gonna
point.
need that proper wording, otherwise, 5 years down the road,
Yeah.
somebody's gonna say, well.
Where do you wanna add that in?
It should be, I mean, basically, it'd be the,
Can you add
council
just for those
committee,
certain-
committee meetings. So you're either on the finance committee, the hiring committee, the negotiations committee,
Ma-
the
maybe
legal
word it that way.
committee.
Well, do you wanna add right at the end of the sentence of, $25 per hour for the length of the entire meeting, excluding conferences and outside meetings?
Yes.
Yeah,
Outside,
that's right.
outside of city,
Hmm.
Direct city function.
direct city function?
The committees that we're appointed to were,
I'm just trying to get the wording right for the
Yeah.
future,
That makes sense.
otherwise,
yeah,
it's gonna be a
conferences and
hassle.
outside meetings.
Waiting for Melanie to look at me.
Sorry.
Does that sound all right?
I'm sorry, I was looking at something else.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What was your
Okay.
question?
I had asked her a question and.
Yeah, and I'm, sorry.
Well, so we're having this conversation about wording for, we'd like to extend the pay for members when meetings go over 4 hours. And the question Dan brought up was, you know, we should add some wording in excluding conferences and/or meetings that are not directly related to city business. Does that make sense? Does that sort of
Yeah,
pass the smell test there?
Cause we're just thinking down the road.
It could, you know, you could list, or you could make that, the additional time apply to mandatory, or something about them being mandatory. If they're conferences, those are not, those are typically just
Voluntary.
voluntary or.
One option is you could completely flip this and just say meetings related to legal or personnel.
Oh,
Legal
Those
or
are the ones
personnel
that- yeah,
actions.
those
Legal
are
personnel
legal.
union is the, all of that.
Only ones that you
Well,
wouldn't
union
need to
personnel,
extend that.
Yeah,
Right.
we're not gonna have a 4-hour EDA meeting or a.
No,
Right.
no,
Right.
very unlikely.
Right. I was just trying to think, you know.
No, that's good, Dwayne. Does that sound,
Mhm.
does that sound
Mhm.
like it covers?
Okay. That's
So a provision
Make
for
it matter.
legal or personnel meetings.
legal or okay.
legal help person.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Sorry.
No,
No,
that's
that's
fine. I'll entertain a motion to approve as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Sally. You have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Administrators report.
Well, sure, we've got a couple things right off, you've got my report in your packet, there are a number of items I'll highlight there, couple of good ones, couple of ones that are coming, we have that five-year plan that, the city engineers are working on with their Board of Risk Department, and I'll be reviewing that, hopefully sometime this fall, we'll be taking a look, we have a couple of areas of town that need some work, we're gonna try and figure out how we can budget those out with the debt service and that sort of thing. Other than that, we do have our, pre-con, next week. Linda will be meeting with contractors for the facility upgrades, for the social distancing and the remote access for the rear part of the building here, so we're looking forward to that. In terms of facility proposals, you have the two proposals that were included in your packet last time. And, the proposals are from the companies that we had met with, a couple of times, I think. The EMS committee met with them, and then council received proposals from them, and then it asked for some, costs basically related to, you know, basically getting the planning, the initial phase, and then being able to say, okay, do we wanna pause this, do we wanna continue it? And then knowing how much it would cost to, you know, in essence, stop the project at that point. And so that's what's included here. And, I know I've talked to both of them, and they'd both be eager to work with the city on these sort of, you know, programming space needs analysis, which I think we do need to do. You know, whether we do a facility or not, I think it'd be good to have an idea of that. In fact, I spoke with our city liquor manager here recently too, and we may be looking at, some space needs analysis for her as well, just simply because that building is so squeezed in their current location, and parking is always a problem there. So, basically what I'm asking for tonight is, after this review of the last 2 months, is there one of these proposals that you feel is better? Is there one of them that you feel more comfortable with? I will say my own perspective on it, and I don't like to pick favorites, but I do think the timeline, I know the mayor has spoken of a timeline that may be a little bit more extended. I think that the timeline, for ICS might be a little bit more extended because of their process, as opposed to, Margaret Johnson's deliverables are a shorter time frame, where I don't know that we really, in many cases, you want a shorter time frame. But in our case, I don't know that we want the shorter time frame. I think we may want a little bit longer time frame. But as such, they're both very qualified companies.
Any preference from anybody?
I prefer ICS, just out of what I see. I like the way their cost. The other ones wanted to be up front right away, and then they'll give you a credit back. These guys will, it's same money, but they're looking at, they can do a lot of the work, and then you determine you're not gonna go, then you pay.
Wasn't ICS the one that also gave us a cost overrun protection guarantee?
Yes.
That's kind of the kicker for me.
Yeah. So that's just the one I would favor out of the two, just what I read.
And for that reason, that would be the one that I would prefer.
I'm comfortable with ICS.
Okay. I am as well. Lonnie?
Me too.
Okay. Do we need official action on that?
Yeah, if you would, if we have a motion approving that as the firm, then, you know, as I said, this is something that's very preliminary. You know, we're not locked into working, you know, we can work with ICS and say, hey, we like your preliminary work, and at that point, we wanna hire a different firm to actually do construction. There's no, I don't think there's any problem with that. So this is just a matter of, you know, I was kicking around with staff today, you know, the different things, the moving pieces of buildings and things like that. I don't necessarily want it all to come from me. For good or for bad, I don't wanna take all the blame or the credit. So it's good to have sometimes it's good to have somebody outside of the city saying, here's what we see, and I think that's gonna be beneficial to us.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we go with the ICS proposal.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that, and I will let them both know tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Next one on the list there, I've got, this is something that just popped up on my radar last week, actually. It was a little bit of a surprise. Apparently Dodge County is looking at a solar project on a parcel there, it's a buffer parcel. It's highlighted on that schematic that you've got in front of you. It is within city limits, or at least the vast majority of it is. And so it's definitely something our planning and zoning will be taking a look at. So this is just for your review. I have a meeting set up, tomorrow to meet with the representatives from the county, and our city engineer will be there, as well as our planning and zoning, person that the council selected to talk a little bit more about it. Because I think there's some definite questions I have about that location in terms of, over the next 10 years, it seems like that would perhaps be a poor location for a solar project. Initially, it might not be an issue, but I know that we've talked about extending 16th Street to the west, and that may take a while now with the way funding's looking, but I still don't know that we really want that to be, blocking us in there. But we'll find out more about that, and the next step I have is I'll take this down to planning and zoning if more action is required, and then if they have some discussion there, we can kick it back to council as an old business item, so.
Does 20 acres even meet the new county ordinance as far as the size of a solar farm?
You know, I don't know off the top of my head, I mean, as far as I knew, there was a moratorium on these right now,
Yeah.
but that's in the county, apparently in the city, they're gonna do their own thing. So,
Well, hey.
I don't wanna disparage them, we'll see
No.
what they have to say.
All right, and then just tell them that it'd be a great trade if they built the road all the way over the dump road from
There we go.
57.
Right, yeah, maybe
Because
that would
they
be,
need
maybe that would be
access.
fair, right?
We can work with them then.
Well, that sounds good to me.
Yep.
So, Tim, before we move off administrator's report, I
Sure.
was remiss in not reminding the three of us that we did have a question from a member of the community.
Yeah, I've actually got 2 more points on here, so I wasn't finished,
Okay,
but.
thank you.
But absolutely, update on the, historic school, and I think that's probably the one that you're referencing.
That's what Jerry had asked
Yeah, we
about.
did have a question from a resident, I did have a meeting, yesterday, it's in my report, with, a developer from Rochester who has some interest in that site. And it's very preliminary, but they potentially might be looking at some market rate, or, basically they call it like Mayo-style housing for medical professionals. There's a couple other projects they have in Rochester, but, they're, as I said, very preliminary. You know, they haven't requested anything from us, it was just a matter of meeting them. They wanted to know if the city had any feedback, and the biggest thing I told them was I thought that community buy-in is an extremely important part of that project area. If there is anything that moves forward, I think the community, and especially that neighborhood around there, wants to be heavily involved from the outset. But other than that, you know, it's a developer that's interested in doing some units potentially in that building, and, you know, it's not for me to say whether it's a financially prudent or not. They have reviewed the building, they think there may be some value there, and that certainly is their prerogative. But, I don't have anything else from that, to be
Okay.
honest with you, no.
Thank you, I just wanted to make sure.
No, I
Jerry's question
appreciate
was
you bringing that
addressed.
up, and I've got one more too here. Update on Plaza 57, I did meet with the folks that have purchased that property as well, had a good meeting with them, good talk. They may be interested in, seeing if the city would like to acquire some of the property on the north side of their lots there, where they have the pond there, they also have a trail area that we've looked at for an easement. And that's what I originally asked them about, was a trail easement for that property, which we had said we'd kind of wait until everything settled down before we bring that up, but I did bring that up with them. They said they might even be interested in seeing that property transferred potentially, and I don't know if the city would be interested in that or not, but, something we'll be taking a look at here over the next month or so. I think that's pretty much I've got. Any questions for me?
Anything on, we discussed this morning on the encroachment behind.
Oh, sure, that's another one, yeah. No, always something I forget. That's something that the, folks at Hy-Vee asked me to discuss with the council. Apparently, and I know, you know, we'll maybe talk about that a little bit more with the city attorney, that property does have, something on the back side of the property, the loading dock area, and potentially on the south side of the property into the alley. It does potentially encroach into the right of way. Now, how long that's been that way, Linda looked through the records, and she's found a number of times when the city has vacated, right of way there, back in 1988 and back in like 1998, maybe you remember that, Dwayne, I think you were on the board at the time. It looks like they kinda maybe just missed a chunk, and you can almost see it on the, if you go on the GIS, where it actually still sticks into the right of way. And so in order to get a clear title, the fellow from Hy-Vee said, usually they would've wanted to have this taken care of already before they closed. But he wanted me to sort of, and I told him it was too late to get it done tonight's agenda. I said, you know, there's no way we could have something to the council before, because you have to deserve time to review this stuff. Not have to come out of the blue, and he called me on Tuesday. But I said, you know, I thought that it was very possible that we might be willing to work with them on some kind of encroachment agreement. I mean, it wouldn't change anything that currently exists. It would just allow them to have that clear title. However, I am leery, now, we've had these issues this last year over these encroachment agreements, so we wanna make sure that, you know, our city attorney's got lots of experience writing them up now, so, you know, who knows?
I do.
But so, yeah, so that is a possible, thing that we bring to the council in October, would be possibly some encroachment agreement, if that's the way they'd like to go with it, so.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate it. And on that note, we'd just like to, you know, pass on a thank you to the Erdman's ownership, who's, you know, been in town since probably the 30s or 20s, whatever it's been, and, thank them for their contributions to the community over the years, and, wish them the best on their future, so. Let's see, the most exciting part of the meeting, engineers report, I&I reduction. No, this is, I've learned the most about this the last 3.5 years, it's fascinating.
Perfect. So number one, yes, is I&I reduction plan, sump pump and lateral inspection program. Previous councilman, you directed us to get that program fired back up. I remember we paused that, due to the COVID kind of outbreak this spring. So we sent off some letters, to every property owner, in the city, and ultimately have 3, public involvement or public engagement meetings set up, and that's in the letter in your council packet there. Talking with staff, we ultimately decided on, one in person at the school, working with the school and the Performing Arts Center. We're gonna have limited capacity of 120, so we also have 2 Zoom meetings set up there, and that's in the letter. It's also on the city's website, CastonSump.com. We are ultimately just gonna be doing the sump pump inspection program at this point only. Then we're trying to reevaluate next spring if we start the lateral inspection. Reason being, sump pumps, we have 1 inspector. Due to COVID, just figured there was less impact between not only our staff, but the homeowners also. And then we're gonna break up the town into sectors. So 1 sector's already open. I think we have about 50 people already signed up, so, we're off and running. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Staff, I know, has had some questions. We've had some other calls, and direct them to the website, to look at it. There's public engagement in there. There's a ton of information in there. In addition to that, we're gonna have a big presentation. May take 45 minutes to go through all of our slides and why we do it. We even, I just showed Mrs. Ferris on even the news articles that we had that were in the news about the I&I and why we do this, and some of the even interviews that the mayor had done, and some of the citizens that are ultimately pushing this. They're fed up with the sewers backing up to their houses. So that's why we're doing it at the end of the day. So I'm gonna educate them on that, and if the council, I guess, if you guys were gonna attend the meeting on the 1st, if there was gonna be a potential quorum, I guess maybe notify Linda so we can get that posted. Again, there's gonna be limited seating there, so maybe just come singularly and not bring the whole family.
On that meeting on the 1st, do you need the council there?
I mean,
Cause you got limited to the 120 people.
It's more of a council discussion. I mean, I hope that, you know, our staff knows enough and got enough feedback from the council to kind of sell to the citizens, if you will. If you guys wanna come, obviously, it's a public meeting, and you're gonna be affected. We just talked to Lonnie about when we're gonna do his house, so, we're gonna be doing everybody's house, so.
The other question I had too, I've already signed up, but when they come, like ours is a sealed sump, what do? They just look at?
So, go to CastonSump.com and.
I'm gonna make it easy for you, Brad, I'm gonna ask, cause everyone's gonna ask, and they're not gonna go look.
That is the company answer and the staff answer to it, but, so what the ordinance says is that, your sump pump has to discharge outside, it can't go to the sanitary sewer, right, that's what we're looking for. So that's the big picture. Some of the details are, we're requiring rigid piping, so if you have a solid piping going outside your house, and discharging outside your house, then you're compliant. That's the biggest thing. Some houses have a flexible discharge, so it comes out, it's a flexible hose, that may go outside, but we're gonna require that to be rigid, so they can't come in, change it, and dump it into the sewer. So that is the requirement in the ordinance, and that's the direction we're going. It's pretty common, so.
I just didn't know
if
they
you're
were opening
rigid
them.
piped outside the house, you should be good to go, so.
I just didn't know if they were opening them up, or.
Nope, as long, you'll see the pipe coming out of the sump basket, so,
Yep.
as long as it's discharged, so.
I will not be here on the 1st, so I won't be attending the meeting.
Okay.
I'll be gone. Basically, just need to know if we're gonna have a quorum.
I'm not gonna go. I don't think I need to. You guys can handle it.
I might still be there from play practice, so that would be the only thing. I mean, I might still be there.
I didn't plan on going, I was gonna try to leave this.
Okay, we won't have a quorum.
Okay, perfect.
Good.
You might
You don't need to post it then.
There you go.
Cool.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, concerns on that?
No, thanks for getting out, the letter was very clear and the information was good, so thank you.
Perfect. Second item, Trunk I-57 update. We've kind of been not having a lot of information on that project, so we had some issues with the roundabouts, working that out with MnDOT. We're ultimately come to consensus with MnDOT and WHCAS as the design of these roundabouts to get kind of a preliminary design out. So now is gonna be a big step in this project where we're going to be developing a website that's gonna have some information on there. We're gonna start some public meetings for that project, talk about the scope of the projects, I'm gonna meet with some local businesses, due to some access issues and some right-of-way issues that we have along the corridor, specifically from 34 up to Main Street. So we're gonna start that process. We'll be bringing something back to the council on the beautification regarding the lights that we've learned, some lack of right-of-way in some areas with some of the beautifications. So bring that back so we can get some buy-in from the council at that level as we develop final plans. Still looking at, it's gonna be very difficult to get this thing designed and buttoned up for next year construction, but I don't have an answer to that this time. I give it about 50-50 chance we get fully constructed next year, so, just where we're at as we're working stuff through, so.
I don't suppose they've said anything to you about if it doesn't happen next year, whether they're going to fill the peaks, valleys, and gullies?
I haven't taken that up with Maine, it's a whole different arm of MinDOT that we deal with, but when we get there next spring, we'll have to address it, so we'll know a lot more by then, so.
Okay, thank you.
So just a quick update on that one. Lastly, 16th Street Northeast update, that's again something we talked about before, regarding the surface on the final lift of the asphalt out there. Working with the paving contractor, they acknowledged the fact there was some surface defects. We took cores, which they go in and look at the asphalt, see how dense it is to make sure we got good compaction. That all passed, was good, so it's more of a aesthetic, issue on the surface. So they ultimately said that they would, they would come in next year, mill that stuff out and repave it if that's what we wanted to do, or we might look at, we do a chip seal or something different out there to correct the surface default. So got them on board on fixing it, they've acknowledged it, so we are looking at closing out that project at some point, so it'll be a future council action, so. That was it, just wanted to give a couple quick updates and answer any question if you have them.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Nothing on personnel, we have attorney, just under personnel, just since you're police chief, anything you have to share with us or anything?
Not right now.
Okay, thanks for the good work, appreciate it. Attorneys, reports, we're gonna have a closed session regarding potential litigation at the library. When the closed session is over, we'll reopen the meeting and invite you back in. If you decide to leave for the night, have a great night, thanks for coming. So we'll close the meeting for a few minutes. Hold up, we're not recording this, right?
October 1st, correct, is when we're gonna have the new